It's the January summer holidays of 2023. My mates and I are all 15 years old, and we could not be more excited to get out of school and start doing something with our lives. But I remember pretty much every single day throughout these holidays, I would just kick back with my mates Crocker and Josh. And one memory which sticks out from all of the rest was the night that Crocker and I got Josh so fried to the point where he passed out and we spent the entire night drawing on his face. But around 2 weeks before school was about to go back, I'm at the gym training one day when I receive a message from Josh telling me that this lad we knew named Rufus was trying to set him up. Now, to give you a bit of a backstory here, me and the boys all used to be friends with Rufus a couple years prior to this taking place, but we had stopped talking to him because he was a snitch, and on top of that, he had become a bit of a criminal in recent times, you know, cycling in and out of juvie, so we didn't really want to associate with someone like that. And pretty much what had happened was Rufus had messaged Josh asking him if he wanted to esh up together, and Josh found this super suspicious given that he no longer lived in the same town that Rufus and I did anymore. You know, he'd moved away. And sure enough, a couple hours after he received this message, a girl who was sort of a mutual friend of Rufus and Josh messages Josh and tells him that this Rufus kid is trying to set him up. Okay, so that pretty much brings you up to speed with everything you need to know moving forward in this story. All right, so after I read Josh's message, I decided I'm going to send Rufus a DM on Instagram, and to sum up what I said, it was pretty much something along the lines of, you better watch your next decision carefully or things could end very badly for you. Now, given that I was much bigger than the large majority of kids my age, and I was like 6'2", 80 kilograms at the time, I was not expecting the response that I got. A couple of days go by and I'm thinking that Rufus just isn't going to reply because he's so scared of what I said. But he decides to reply with, "Do you think I'm scared of you?" And this was the message that sparked a 5-day chain of insults back and forth to each other. Now, of course, at first I messaged Rufus because I was just trying to defend Josh, make sure nothing bad happened to him. But around 3 days into going back and forth over DMs with Rufus, he says something which crosses a fucking line and gets me so fired up. He says to me that my ex-missus was giving him the previous week, which wasn't the bad part. The bad part was, after she was done, she showed him the photos that I'd sent her when we had been dating together. And like I said, the reason this got me so fired up is because there's just some lines you cannot cross, all right? And one little detail I'd like to sprinkle in that I still find quite funny to this day is after he told me he was getting with my ex-missus, I said to him, "Good bro, she deserves someone like you." But anyhow, I ended up just telling him I'll see him when school goes back because I knew when we came face to face, he would not be talking so tough anymore. And let me just tell you, what ends up happening is far funnier than anything I could have ever dreamed of. But I'll get to that in a minute. So the first day of school rolls around and I'm trying to convince my mum to let me drop out because I'm just so fucking sick of school. I see it to be a waste of time. But of course, being the good mum that she is, she tells me that I have to go, that I'm not dropping out when I don't even have a job to go to. So she drives me to school that morning, and on the car ride there, I begin to talk about the things I'm going to do to Rufus because what he's been saying to me over social media, right? I tell her, "Oh, if I see him, I'm going to do this and that to him, you know, he's going to get it." And she pretty much just tells me, you know, don't be stupid, try and ignore him, stay away from him, all the things that your mum would typically tell you. But of course, being the naive 15-year-old boy that I was, I don't take any of that on board, and I say to myself, when I see this cunt, he is gonna know it. So I arrive to school shortly after and I walk in the front gates. I go to roll call, you know, get my name marked off, this and that, and I head to first period, which conveniently enough was woodwork, all right? For my American viewers, I think that's called timber shop. And it just so happens that that was an elective that I'd chosen the year before with Rufus in that class. So I know that when I go to this period, all I've got to do is wait for Rufus to show up, and it is fucking on. I rock up to class and I sit at the same bench as a few of the lads that I knew. And I start telling them about all this shit Rufus has been saying. I'm telling them, "Oh lads, when this kid, you know, when Rufus arrives to school, it is fucking on, like get excited." And around 10 minutes into class, as the teacher is marking the roll off, the kid sitting across from me at the same table says to me that Rufus just walked in, looked at me, and then walked out. So I do one of these ones, like I fully fucking like snap my neck, you know what I mean? And I can't see him anywhere, right? So I say to him, are you sure it was him? Like it wasn't someone else? And he goes, no, it was him, it was Rufus. He just walked in, saw you, then walked out. So as soon as I hear this, I do not fucking hesitate, bro. I get up and I absolutely book it out of the classroom through the TAS quad, which is where like all the tech classes are. And I still can't see this anywhere. Like literally he's nowhere to be seen. So I get out of the TAS quad and I start running up towards the center of the school where the canteen is. And around 100 meters away from class, I come face to face with Rufus. He's just chilling at the canteen, you know, looking down at his phone. He's probably Snapchatting a few people, unaware of the danger that lies ahead. But sure enough, he must have seen me at the corner of his eye. He looks up and bro, I shit you not, to this day, this is one of the funniest stories that I'm gonna tell. His face goes from one of these ones to like this, like in a matter of seconds, like, oh! And as soon as he sees me, he goes, oh fuck. He knew he was in for it. I start running towards him. I would have been only like 5 meters away. And he absolutely fucking books it. He goes up the big set of stairs, goes onto the flat set of concrete, right in the dead center of the school. And as I'm chasing him, my heart is pounding faster and faster with every step I take, just with this fucking excitement, knowing that when I get him, I'm finally gonna get what I want. As he's running, he's screaming, help, sir, help, to the teacher nearby. I keep running after him, but he runs up the library stairs and into the library where 3 or 4 teachers block me off and stop me from getting to him. They ask me what I'm doing, you know, why am I chasing him? But my intent is still set on him, and I can just see him through the glass. He's throwing up gang signs, and he says to me, I shit you not, I cannot make this stuff up. He goes to me, you want to slide on me when I don't have my boys? And I say to him, what? It's a one-on-one. He was one of these little fucking wannabe gangsters, all right? But a few seconds after this had all unfolded, the male teacher who he was calling out to nearby comes up to me and he says like, hey mate, what's the matter? What was that all about? You know, come down to my office, we can have a chat. He's talking to me in a really friendly manner. It's not really disciplinary like most teachers would. So I walk down to his office, I start, you know, talking to him. My heart's fucking pounding. I've got all this adrenaline pumping through me and he's asking me all these questions. So I explained to him what was said, you know, the things he'd been saying. And I mentioned the part which really tipped me over the edge, you know, the part where he said, my ex-missus was giving him and she had showed him the photos. Now it's at this point that this lad of a teacher asks me who exactly it was that I was chasing. So I tell him, you know, it was Rufus. And it turns out this dude didn't fucking like him either, because he had been in a little bit of a disagreement with one of his students the year before, and his student had obviously got him, you know what I mean? But around 10 minutes into being in this lad's office, he receives a call from the deputy asking him to bring me down to her office. Now, as soon as I heard that, I knew that I was going to be in for a wicked punishment. Reason being, in my 3 years of schooling at this high school, I wasn't exactly in her good books. I had been in her office more times than I care to admit. I'm talking if something bad happened that had literally nothing to do with me, I was always the first person to blame because, well, most of the time it was me. So this lad walks me down to her office, and just as we're about to enter like the main office area, I can see her standing out the front with her arms crossed, looking all fucking angry at me. And she appears to be fucking fuming. So we walk through the office doors following behind her, and it's at this point that I see Rufus sitting in the principal's office with the door wide open. I think, holy fuck, this is my time. This is gonna be my redemption arc, son. And just as I'm about to run in there and get this little, the deputy says, don't you dare. And like blocks off the entrance so I can't get in there, right? We get into her office and she tells me to take a seat, so I do. And she starts going in, what were you thinking, Luke? What, were you gonna bitch him or suck him and have the coppers down here arresting you, were ya? So I proceed to tell her exactly the things that he's been saying. You know, he's been making threats towards me. I tell him the things he said to me over Instagram, and she tells me, oh, well, do you really think it's a good idea to chase him on your first day back at school? You should come to me for things like this, Luke. All right, now, fair enough, but at the time I didn't see it that way. So I tell her that I find it bullshit. If he's gonna make threats, then he should be willing to suffer the repercussions. And she didn't fucking like that. So we go back and forth for a couple of minutes as the story goes, but the conversation pretty much concludes with, look, Luke, I'm gonna call your mum, I'm gonna get her to come and pick you up for the day, And if you choose to come back tomorrow, you'll be in my office first thing discussing the areas that you can and can't go for the rest of the year so that you're not near Rufus. Now, if you knew this lady like I knew her, you would know, you would understand that that was her way of saying, don't fucking come back to school, all right? I don't want to do all the paperwork. Fucking Siri just scared the fuck out of me. This was pretty much this lady's way of telling me, don't come back to school, but I don't want to do the paperwork, right? Because there's a lot of paperwork involved in expulsion. And I know that to be true because she had forced Josh out of school a couple years back in 2021. I'll talk about that in this video on the screen if you want to watch it. So she sends me out the very front of the office where students would typically get picked up from. She sends one of the office ladies back down to my classroom to collect my bag that was still there. And I spend the next 10 minutes sitting there with so much regret, not because I had chased Rufus, but because I didn't get him. And I'm just thinking, fuck, I've got to make things right. And making things right in my mind was going and getting this little cunt for the things he had said. All right, now I'm not saying any of these things are right, you know, morally. I'm not saying that this was a good decision. But what comes next is just absolutely fucking absurd. After sitting there for 10 minutes, I decide, you know what? I'm gonna go get this little and I'm gonna film the whole thing. So I'll put my phone in my front pocket and I start walking out of the office towards where Rufus is, right? The principal's office. But just as I'm about to exit out the door to go and do that, one of the office ladies says, hey Luke, where are you going? I'll quickly make up an excuse. Oh, I'm going down to my classroom to get my laptop. I think I left it there. And she says to me, oh, just wait, darling, I'll come with you. So she follows behind and I proceed to make my way to the principal's office. Now, as soon as I get there, I'm thinking, fuck yes, I'm gonna get this little, this is my time, this is my redemption arc. But that's when I see the deputy guarding the office doors. And as soon as she sees me, she bellows out, Luke, go now! Now, it was a good thing that I had this laptop excuse. I say, oh, I was just coming to ask if I could get my laptop from class. By the way, the laptop didn't even fucking exist. You think I had a laptop? I barely had an attendance rate. So to sum it up, I don't end up getting this moment of satisfaction that I had hoped for. Mum comes and picks me up and I spend the rest of the day riding my BMX and chilling in the pool at home. But bro, all of this could have been avoided if both Josh and I had just chosen to take Rufus's words for exactly what they were, words. Because the thing is, when people say things, they only have meaning if you let them have meaning. Like I could call you a cunt right now and you could choose to take the maximum amount of offense to that, or you could choose to say, okay, that's fair enough, you're entitled to your own opinion. Words don't have meaning other than what you place behind them. It's like if I yelled at you in a foreign language, right? You wouldn't understand it. I could yell all these insults, but no matter how hard I try, it's just not gonna clock to you. I know you've probably heard this before, but it's like, things only get to you if you let them get to you. And what I'm teaching here isn't cowardice, it's emotional maturity. It's being able to regulate your emotions in such a way that you don't act on every single one that you feel, because it becomes a real problem when every emotion you feel you think you need to act on. Like I said in the other day's video, I believe, this is how we end up with so many drug addicts, school people who are so confused and unsure of what to do in their life. They're trying to identify as something they're not, or be something they're not, I should say, because they choose to act on every emotion they feel. Emotional maturity is being able to stay calm during a disagreement, you know, through someone's anger and through them yelling at you, and being able to say, you know what, it's all good, I'm not gonna feed the fire, I'm not gonna let this person's words get to me, and I'm just gonna take them for exactly what they are. You know, it's all heat of the moment. We've all said something before that's in the heat of the moment. But the thing with these heat of the moment things, right, is you can't take back things you've said. You can't take back things you've done. If every decision you make in life is based off of the emotion that you're feeling, you are going to lead a very unhappy and very unfulfilling life. You know, taking drugs, sex, alcohol, porn, all of these things feel good in the moment, but actually take away from your future self and regress you down the line. They don't further progress your life in any way. And they are emotion-fueled decisions. Once I learned emotional maturity, I became more fearless, more jacked, more rich, more stoic, more courageous, all of these things. My life just got so much better in every single way because I chose to master my emotions instead of letting them master me. Because whatever you worship, whatever you choose to give into, is ultimately what has control over you. If you're scared of being broke, you worship money. If you're scared of being skinny, you worship someone with a perfect physique. And the only thing that I now choose to worship is the Almighty Lord Jesus Christ. Amen to that. But I hope this video helped. I hope you found the story somewhat entertaining. With all that said, I will see you in the next one. Hit the sub button, smash like, stay grinding, my G.